Hey, Mariah, how are you?
I'm good. How are you today?
Fine, thank you. Hey, Nathan, how are you?
Hi, Mark. Good. How are you?
Super, thank you. Did y'all have a good weekend?
For the most part.
It is busy.
Yeah.
Good. Mine too, actually. Hi, Anna. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Hey, Thomas. How are you tonight?
Okay, how you doing tonight?
Fine, thank you. Do you get Vernors over there, Thomas?
It's over here, but I get it once in a while.
Mm-hmm. Mariah, do you know what Vernors is?
No, I do not.
It's a ginger ale, a local ginger ale product from the Vernors family that had their plant in Highland Park, which is sort of just north of the neighborhood you all are studying in.
Oh, okay.
It was actually a bottling plant
Mm-hmm.
on Woodward across from the Albert Kahn designed Model T factory, where the first automobiles in the USA were actually produced, manufactured and produced in an assembly line sort of format. So they were kind of literally across the street from each other. And it's a great beverage. And if you drop a vanilla ice cream in it,
Oh, that sounds good.
yeah, then it's called a Boston Cooler.
Okay. I don't think I've heard of that either, though.
That's that's because you're up in the mountains. You guys don't got to come down the mountain to learn all of that good stuff.
Yep, exactly.
Right. Have you had one of those, Nathan, Anna, a Boston Cooler?
I think I did when I was a kid.
Of course.
My grandparents live in Maine, but my grandma grew up here in Highland Park, so
Well, she remembers that beverage.
yeah. So whenever they would come to Michigan, they would bring back cases of Vernors with them. So when I was a kid, I'm sure we had one of those when we went to visit them. They always had a good supply of Vernors.
Right. And when you're feeling poor or sickly,
Mm-hmm.
the Vernors maybe with a spoon through it, just to sort of take the fizz out of it, is a great drink to help you make you feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we're almost all here. I see two Nathans in the green shirt. And I see Nathaniel. He's here. And Zach is here. We're waiting for our intrepid NOMA representative in Mateo. 1, 2, 3.
He sent us an
4,
email
5.
saying he wouldn't be here till like 6.
Okay, he'll be running into the other session. Who are we missing? I think Judd. We'll give him another minute. Thanks for that update. Okay, so you got a couple of grade sheets last weekend, and I'm wondering if that caused you any sort of questions. This would be a good time to go over that. The one grade sheet was one I used last year specifically for the research component, and last year for the very first review, which was actually held earlier in the month of October, was just was just the research. This year we kind of changed the game a little bit. This year I've tried to encourage you to do the research and your initial sort of design strategies simultaneously, keeping my fingers crossed for next Monday night to that end. And so you won't necessarily get a grade for the explicitly for the research, but the performance that you make on Monday night for your research contributes to your grade for the basic benchmark work, the design work. So the again, the project statement is going to be a line that you insert, and I want you to sort of craft that based on you know the intentions that you have for your project. I'd also like you to maybe, as you're sort of writing all of this stuff, I'd also like you to think a little bit about sort of the questions that you're uncovering in this semester. And the questions might be, you know, something like this: what discoveries within this topic of missing middle housing have you made? You know, what have you learned? What did you learn that you didn't know? What discoveries did you make? I mean, I assume for most of us, we did not know what missing middle housing was until, you know, maybe you read my studio brief and you signed up for or were given this section to participate in. So assuming that most of us didn't have really any idea what it was as a theme, which, by the way, I didn't know about until 2 years ago. What discoveries have you made in that regard? And it's not necessarily something that I'm keen on having you write in your project statement. I mean, that actually may not be the appropriate place. But I do think that for next Monday night, you ought to talk about that. You ought to talk about what you discovered. You ought to talk about what the research helped you learn and what dealing with this subject matter of missing middle housing has meant to you. And I think that would be a really compelling point. It would help, I think, get your audience engaged, and it will help make that conversation, you know, I think a little bit more personal and a little bit more from the heart and from, you know, from your own sort of research topic. Okay. Then the drawings that I have are just sort of previous student work. It's just to give some context to the class, and then the grading matrix is something I'm actually probably going to calibrate a little bit more. I'm going to fine tune that a little bit more. I will include the grading or the research component in that rubric, and I will, I think, fine tune it so that there will be actually more categories, or at least one more category that I've been thinking about. I'll share that final grade sheet rubric and your own final grade sheets before the benchmark review, which is again next Monday night. I'll be running that review from my office. So if you were in town and wanted to have supper with us and do the review in person, you're welcome to do that. My office is in downtown Detroit. We'll start at 5:30 sharp. Since the Lions play on Sunday and the Tigers were done weeks ago, the parking is pretty available after hours. It might be a $5 fee. It might even be, you know, less than that. But you're encouraged to be there for that review, and you're certainly welcome. If that is the case, if you're kind of game to come into Detroit for the review, just let me know, and I'll make sure I order enough food for you. Okay. We have Christoph Eibel. Christoph is one of our architects. He's actually one of our lead architects on the Brush Park project, for both of them. And he's been in, let's see, he's been in 3 studio reviews for this topic with me. He loves the topic, and he's very much interested in helping me out again this semester and meeting all of you. So Christoph will be joining us next Monday night. So we will have one critic for sure, and I'm angling for another, but I'm also kind of thinking that through. But in any event, Christoph will get on Saturday morning your grade sheet, which means that I need your email about your project statement on Thursday by the end of business. Okay? Okay, now, here's the thing. Here's the game plan. Here are the rules, right? Do not ever use the word I, me, my in this summary. Find ways to say what you're saying without dropping you in the middle of it, without pasting the I on your sweatshirt. There are ways to do that. And if you're struggling with how to do that, send me the bad sentence and I'll show you how to make it a better sentence. Here's the other thing. Truth be told, for about 20 years now, ever since the advent of email, which literally has been about 20 years, I have tried to write emails without I, me, and my in it. And it's actually not that easy to do. And it's actually a very interesting position to take. Because if I'm saying in an email that I think that you should do this, or I think that you should do that, it actually is, get this, less authoritative than if you say our firm, right, or Hamilton Anderson, or Tower Pinkster Titus, right? Whatever the firm is, you can put the firm as the author of that opinion out first, ahead of you, and your opinion actually stands stronger. It is actually more authoritarian, and it's less confrontational. And it also begins to show that you understand what the firm's mission is, and you begin to clarify that it's not just your opinion that the recipient of this email is getting. So in my opinion, it's good advice to try to craft your emails, the ones that are, right, important emails, not the emails where I had trouble finding the file that you wanted. Here it is, Fred. That's not the kind of email I'm talking about, right? I'm talking about emails where you're entering into a conversation and you're stating positions of opinion or a reflection on direction, those kinds of emails. And if you try to write them in that form, you'll actually see how easy it is to slip out of that mode and into the I, me, and my mode. And you'll realize that your email sounds really limp when you do it that way. So that's my advice. I would try to do that, but definitely you will want to do that for this project statement. And I'm going to give you the opportunity, you'll have the opportunity for the second benchmark and for the final benchmark to adjust or tweak that project statement. And so I just want to make you aware of that as well, okay? Are there any questions about the grade sheets? Super. So when you return those project statements, the sooner the better. And again, I'm happy to look at them and help you through that, especially if it's too long. And then I'll drop them into the template and share each of the grade sheets for you and your classmates with each of you. So Anna, you're going to get 7 more grade sheets plus your own. Judd, the same thing. So you're going to have a chance, everyone, to see what your colleagues are saying about their project and what their grade sheet looks like. I would also encourage you to print them out and make your own remarks about their presentation for Monday, because I'm going to call on you to share those with your teammates after that review. So as you're auditing Nathan's or Thomas's or Zach's presentation, I'd like you to, in effect, participate in the completion of that rubric, and then we'll ask you to scan it and share that with each of your classmates. I will tell you that it's probably better that you make 7 separate scans and send that grade sheet directly to Anna, directly to Judd, directly to Nathan, directly to Mariah, rather than share all of your scans with everyone. You can do it that way, but in the interest of I guess I would say privacy, it might be more civilized, right, to do it that way. Likewise, Christoph's grade sheets will be sent to you as soon as I receive them. He's actually very good about completing them very quickly, and so I'll scan them and send them off. And because I see him in the morning, the next morning, he'll probably have them on my chair. He lives right around the corner from the office and probably gets there a little bit before I do. But as soon as I get them, I scan them and return them to you. And then probably over the weekend, which will be like the 23rd, something like that, Saturday or Sunday, I'll sit down and develop my own grade sheet for each of you, and I'll send those off to you privately. You'll only see one grade sheet. Okay? Does that make sense? So you're going to get feedback from your colleagues. That's good. That's kind of important. It happens in offices, happens in my office, and it should happen here in our studio. You'll get grade sheets from Christoph, right? And whoever else I get, if I get someone else, right? So you'll get commentary from someone in the profession and someone who knows this project pretty well and knows the rhythm of the studio, understands our online issues, and has been party to that. And then you'll get a grade sheet from me probably a week from Saturday, a week from this coming Saturday. And that will happen, guys, not only for benchmark 1, but also for 2 and also for 3. All right. In the final benchmark, right, in December, you'll get feedback from whoever turns in the grade sheets, because in December we actually have more critics. And in December, I won't necessarily know who they are, because Sir Philip of Plowright always gives us our critics. The James Bond of the College of Architecture and Design. So I may not be able to leverage the response time as quickly with them as I would with a critic of my own choosing. But in any event, whatever I get from them, I share with you. And Christoph's comments, I don't translate them. I don't rewrite them. I don't retype them. You get the scan as it was written. Okay? If you can't read it, you got to kind of ask me, or ask each other, and then ask me what the heck he said here. His writing is pretty clear, but I think you can expect that the writing of other people that we might get in December will be illegible, right? In December, you'll get the critics' comments, right? And then you'll get my comments. And those comments will be for benchmark 3. Then I compute the final grades arithmetically, right? And that gets released in the form of like Banner Web, and you get the final grade via how do you all get that? Like an email that the final grade has come, or you just sort of log into Banner Web every morning? Okay, so I'm seeing Anna nod. Yeah. Right, so you'll get the grade, that way, right? So we did a little bit of a look ahead, and we're going to look ahead for Monday night. I'll give you a batting roster later this week for who's going to go first and next and so on. And in that email, I'll remind you of how little time you have to spend when you present your work and how much time we'll give you in kind of a group conversation. And I'll also expect that you guys as research teams will have perfected your own presentations and try to keep those to no more than 15 minutes. I ask that. I'm keeping my fingers crossed on that. I know you'll run to 20, but we can't really afford to go much past 20 minutes. So I'm either going to have you wrap it up very quickly, or I'll have to cut short any conversation that's happening in order for us to move through the research, again, for Christoph's benefit, and then into the presentations. Ultimately, I'd like to spend 20 minutes with each of you. So that's like 8 or 9 minutes for your presentation and 11 or 12 minutes, right, for the conversation between all of us. I like to hang back in that conversation in the review, but I do contribute. And we'll move through all 8 of you, which, you know, if you do the arithmetic, right? I'm going to do it because I don't do arithmetic. Yeah, that's almost 3 hours, right? That leaves 20 minutes for the research presentations. And, right, that's the full time slot. That's why I get paid the big bucks. All right. That's a lie, of course, right? Are there any questions about next Monday? This is a grading opportunity. And what did I say in the course syllabus? This is like 30%, 35% of your grade. So this is a big freaking deal, right? So I would say to you that, you know, make sure that you're explaining your assumptions clearly. Make sure you're making your case in a linear and sequential way. Don't, for example, just show the site plan as a finished thing that comes to us without any sort of evidence, right? Graphical evidence of the iterations that led to it, right? Make sure that you show us those iterations. You may say, well, I didn't do very well on those drawings, or I didn't give a lot of care to those drawings. I'm going to pick on Zach right now. You know, Zach showed some really lovely, kind of crude, right, Zach? Kind of lovely, crude hand drawings last weekend that I really relished. I really embraced them. And I even asked him today, I'm like, dude, are you going to like mature those into some sort of like CAD or Revit format? And he assured me that he was. But, you know, I want to see those drawings, Zach, in the presentation. You know, there's ways for them to make their way into the pres. And, you know, just like you made them part of our email conversation over the weekend. So you have to make your case methodically and sequentially. You have to make it in the way that you made your papers so strong in high school. You know, you state what your premise is, you build that premise up point by point, and then you remind us at the end of your case what you did for us. Also, I haven't really seen a lot of evidence of your case studies and how you're sort of looking at case studies and what you're gleaning and drawing from them. So that's a very important sort of condition of this studio. That's kind of the first premise I made right out of the gate with Steal Like an Artist. I gave you a couple of talks on legendary, internationally acclaimed architects that have done just that, living and dead. And the case study, I think, is a very critical sort of component of that. All right. I will say, so I probably sound like I'm nagging, so I apologize. But I will say that you guys right now, today, are in better shape in terms of what I've seen and in terms of where you've taken your architecture than what I've seen in the last 3 semesters. So I want you to embrace that. I want you to feel good about that. But I want to be clear that we're not just showing your architecture, but you're also showing us how you got to that architecture. You need to show us that journey that led us to these conclusions, right? So when you show us a site plan, it's the conclusion of those iterations that came before it. And you know, when you do things in CAD or Revit or in InDesign or in all three of those things, you can literally just click through those iterations very quickly, right? Like the diagrams that you saw, for instance, in Brush Park, and the diagrams that you saw with Bjarke Ingels, and the diagrams that you saw with Stephen Hull, and the diagrams that you've seen in probably any of the other sort of research that you've done. That's the beauty of the work format that you guys operate in. You can show permutations, you can show iterations of a thing in terms of the journey that the thing goes through very quickly. You don't need to talk about each plate, right? Think about it that way. You can just literally click. Nathan will tell you, I didn't even talk about my drawings from Brush Park at my awards lecture last month. I literally just went through them, probably 150 images. So, you know, there's ways to move through the content verbally and visually, but composing that conversation is important. And I think that's the final point. Make sure you write out your script. Make sure you have a script. Make sure you compose what you're going to say. And remember that you can rely on your drawings to say things that words can't possibly say very clearly or clearly enough. So find that balance between words and text, along with drawings and graphics. Remember how Bjarke Ingels presented. He did things at a very fast clip. He did things that were amusing. He did side-by-side images, right? He had video. He did all sorts of things that helped make 4 projects, right, become crystal clear in like, what, 12, 16 minutes? Very, very interesting how he was able to do that. And he was talking and walking on stage all at the same time. So quite honestly, that's where I need you to be on Monday night next week. And this may be the first time that you've been sort of challenged to do that. But by the end of this semester, and by certainly the end of the 2017 spring semester, I need you to be there. I need you to be that polished. And so this is the first of, I hope, 5 or 6 presentations that you'll have as a graduate student. Any questions about that? Anybody pooping their pants? No? Good. No questions? So it's 6 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, Wheel of Fortune's on. Or I can sit and visit with you if you need to talk to me. So I kind of look at this as an open house. I did not have a sign-up list. I'm happy to talk you off the ledge if that's what you need. I'm happy to review a presentation that you might have formatted. I'm happy to look at your current status of your work if you want to do that. Or I'm happy to let you go and work for the remainder of this week. I will be around. I will be returning Thursday afternoon. So if you need to talk Thursday or Friday, Saturday or Sunday, I could be available for you in that regard. If you needed a Google Hangout or if you needed to exchange emails, I think the Hangout is probably a little bit more a more effective way of like saying things to you versus the email. But I'm happy to look at emails and images of your work via that route. So it's up to you. And lastly, I hate to nag you about this, but I have to nag you about this because they need me to nag you about this. Yep, that's right. I need to nag you about the course evaluations. This is a big deal for the university. This is a big deal for faculty members, because if I'm not, delivering the groceries on time to you, you need to give me that feedback. You need to give clear feedback to the online community that organizes these faculty and course evaluations. This happens twice per semester, and we've had, I think, 50% turnout. Thank you very much for that. That is pretty good. But I really do shoot for a 100% participation. The e-learning community really needs this. Here's why. The online architecture program is, for all intents and purposes, an experiment. And indeed, I'm one of the original 2 faculty members that created this thing and have been sort of teaching it ever since it started. And so, I mean, they sort of know how I'm doing, and they sort of appreciate what we're able to accomplish. But the sort of livelihood of that online environment does depend on your commentary about the faculty and the courses that you're taking in this online community. So I really do need you to spend 10 minutes, 5 minutes probably, participating in that questionnaire. And just so you know, there is absolutely no way that I can discern who is, rating me, good, better, best, or, bad, worse, and pitiful. I cannot discern that, because it's all kind of like statistical and numerical. The only comments that I can infer whose voice it might be is if you write a sentence that talks about the class, right? I might, in other words, honestly, I might be able to hear your voice in the comments that you might make. I think they happen near the end of the review. But honestly, I've never been able to do that. So I don't know what that says. It's just that I can't really figure out, if Mariah writes something, I can't really tell what she's written, because I can't, when I read those words, I can't hear her voice writing them. And those comments come with all of the other statistics. I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to see a course review when it's completed, but it's just a bunch of graphs and charts with like percentiles, right? And maybe a couple of comments. Honestly, you guys, for the last couple of awards that I have been nominated for, these reviews have been really good for being able to copy a comment and paste it in those awards nominations documents that I've been asked to prepare. And you'll always see at the bottom of them, anonymous student evaluation 2015, because I don't know who wrote it. So for me personally, I think that while the numbers have usually been pretty consistent, I'll just say it that way, the feedback that you write out has been personally for me more helpful and more constructive. The feedback in that way has been useful in that regard, and it's through those comments that I've tried to sort of slowly and incrementally improve the studio, and so it's necessary for me to get that feedback, just like grades are for you, and it's necessary for the online community to get that. So I'm nagging you one more time. Please do that tonight if you would. There's a shelf life on that stuff, so if you can do that as soon as possible, that would be appreciated. Okay, now I'm pretty sure I'm done, right? I'll send out the roster. You send me your project statements. I'll send out the grade sheets with the new and improved rubric, the roster being the batting order, right? Because it's baseball season. We'll send out the batting order. And when I send that out, I'll also remind you who the critic is in Christoph, and I'll tell you a little bit about him. I'm waiting for you now. Any other comments?
have a few things I want to talk to you about.
Yes, ma'am. So I'll stick around for you.
Sounds good.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. One last comment for next week. I would suggest that you remember some remarks early on in the semester about your sort of process this year, right? The idea being that when you are sitting in practice portfolio in May and June and into July, you're going to be reflecting on and pulling together the material from ADS 2 next semester and ADS 1 this semester. And I'm going to challenge you, and if I have the pleasure of reviewing your work next semester, which is actually fairly probable, I definitely want to see improvement in your drawings between now and next semester. You should always be trying to do more and better drawings throughout the course of this academic year. This is your final year. Let me remind you that while all of you probably have cushy jobs, right, or good jobs, I pledge to you, and I'm always right, that you won't be working there in 2 years, right? That you'll be moving on to a new firm in 2 years. This is statistically provable, and unless you're owning the company right now and you haven't told me about that, I assure you that in 2 years, you will be starting the process of moving on. And the point being, not that I'm a soothsayer about the future, even though I'm right, the fact is that your reviewers, the people that are going to be interviewing you to hire you, are not going to be looking at your undergraduate work. You're not even going to want to show them that work. What you're going to want to show them is the work from ADS 1 and 2, as well as critical practice. And you're going to show them that work on your website and in your portfolio that you're going to do this summer. Because that's really the current work. That's the work that reflects who you are, because it's work that you created from your own agenda, right? It's work that you hatched. So they're not going to want to see Tom Nashlin's studio. They're not going to want to see, Edward Orlowski's studio, even though that might have been really, really good work and a really wonderful project. The fact is you've matured. So they want to see into your soul as an architect when they look at that work. So you need to be doing the very best drawings you can for all 3 benchmarks next semester and this semester. Okay? Now, does that mean that the best drawings have to happen in benchmark 1? Not necessarily, right? Because I'm not expecting fully rendered things. I'm expecting, right, in this first benchmark, a coherent assembly of like facts and drawings that illustrate the linear, logical, coherent, linked thinking, right, that you're stitching together to make your case, right? And as we hear you explain that case Monday, we'll give you the feedback in order to make that linking stronger, and we'll work more throughout the next month to help you understand what drawings you need to be doing and what other students' drawings have looked like, so that you have a measuring stick. And then you'll work to do the very best drawings in November/December, right? So that's kind of the evolution, right? They can be hand-drawn drawings. I'm not saying anything about software. I'm not saying anything about the way you present. Zach, for instance, you could be doing everything by hand, but right now my hand-drawn drawings are much better than yours. So if you wanted to stay in hand drawings as a mode, right, I want to work with you on that. I want to show you how to do that so that you evidence your work as beautifully as it can be. I've had several students, for example, do nothing but hand-drawn drawings in this course. There's no software requirement, but I want them to be the very best drawings possible, right, for the studio.
I think you might be thinking of Nate's drawings from last week.
Sorry.
Yeah, those are my drawings.
Was it you, Nate, or Zach?
Yeah, that was mine.
Thanks. Okay, my apologies. That's why Zach's sitting there with his shaking his head, going, "Why the
Yeah,
heck
I'm
is
trying
he
to
picking
figure out
on
when I
me?"
did anything by hand that I showed you.
Right.
My apologies.
Well, I was thinking
This is
something.
really tough up because I got 2 Nathans in this class. How does that happen?
We had 3 in critical practice.
Oh God, that must have
And it
driven
wasn't-
Philip nuts. Yeah, my apologies. Okay, so if anyone wants to visit with me after talking with Mariah, just hang around and we'll fold you into the conversation. And I will stick around till at least 6 until Mateo gets here. Well, it looks like I've already done that. So in any event, Mariah, you have the floor. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you next week if we're not going to talk tonight. And oh, yeah, and then I'm not here Wednesday night, so that's why, right, we're not having class. That's why we don't have a conventional sign-up list. All right. Yes, ma'am.
God, I'm myself. So I was working on the Revit a little bit more since I sent that stuff to you on Friday.
Yes.
Give me 1 second if you don't mind.
You know, and I do remember seeing, Mariah, that you had kind of an axonometric site plan. So I wasn't being sort of glib, intentionally glib or flippant, but I guess what I am trying to say in that is that, you know, please be cognizant, and this goes for everyone, that, you know, yes, it is an architecture studio, so it is about the objectification of the idea, but remember that the best work that we've seen so far in terms of case studies or anything else that we've talked about in lectures has always been in the way that the object relates to the site, you know, and the fact that you're designing the spaces that surround that object is what I was talking about.
Right, and I think I've tried to work with that a little bit more today, in general. And I know that wasn't everything that I plan on showing for Monday.
Sure. No, I knew that.
Okay.
I would say that as a matter of rule, ever since the computer generation from 1995 forward, students never show me everything. In the old days, we loved to show our drawings because we drew them. There was like this, you know, look what I can do, look what I can do, right? We would love, you know, like Stewart on Mad TV, you know, we'd always show you what we could do. We'd always be so proud of our drawings. Today, though, the students are always like, well, I'm waiting for the drawing to render. I'm waiting for the model to finish. And so students typically never show all of their work. So I've kind of gotten accustomed to that,
Okay.
much to my frustration. But that's neither here nor there.
Okay. Share. So there's more than that. I'm trying to like work my way around everything. So I wanted to, you know, make sure I have all the existing buildings, and then integrate the rest of the site around it and show, I guess, save it, how that's all working together. I did kind of refine these based on your comments for the outdoor terrace, like on the roof.
Yeah, yeah. I remember that comment.
And I mean, really, all I did was bump it out a little bit more and add another stairwell.
That's what it would happen, right? The stairway has to circle back to go up.
And I looked at 2 different scenarios. One that was the entrance to this unit is off of the stairwell so that anyone can use the rooftop, which I like a little bit better, versus this one where it's only the second floor tenants.
And the room doesn't get any smaller, right?
No, because I took this exterior wall and moved it to the right. So it actually gave the children's bedroom a little bit more room, or the second bedroom, I should say, a little bit more room than what was there originally. And then this is,
So this is a duplex horizontally separated, correct?
yes.
Uh-huh.
And then these are the 2, how they kind of reflected in elevation and kind of 3D. And I like the one on the right a little bit more just because it doesn't, I don't know, the other one with the thing sticking up, it just doesn't wow me. Because I was concerned about that stairwell and like the practicality of like Michigan snow and trying to somehow mitigate not having a bunch of snow fall down near that door and water leakage and that sort of thing.
Do you have a roof plan? That's fine.
Yeah.
Show me that.
So this one is all enclosed. And then this one on the right has got like a low wall and then like a curtain wall, not a curtain wall, it's made of, a railing. And I was thinking like slope it slightly to the outside so that water would drain away.
So, can you go back to the plan?
Yeah, I think. Right one. So the one on the left is fully enclosed. And then the one on the right is the one that's kind of open on the side.
So, if we were working in an office, I'd say enclose it.
Okay.
I wouldn't want the liability of detailing all those stairs and all that flashing and dealing with, a facade that's going to have snow buildup, leaf buildup, water, water holding up there, the slip fall hazards, just even if it's just slightly wet up there because of dew, that kind of thing. It's just an exposure to liability that and headache and maintenance that I just like to avoid.
Understandable, very much so.
and I think the idea of enclosing it avoids that, altogether. So the question then is what happens on the roof? So maybe it's not just that one sort of milk carton that pops up. Maybe it's actually double width. Maybe the other stairway has a light monitor, right? Like clerestory windows that allow light from the roofscape to come into that stairwell.
Okay.
Right. So that's another way. Because right now, I think aesthetically, right, and in terms of massing, the right elevation is stronger because the railing dies into that more exaggerated parapet for the larger window, which I think is a lovely sort of thing. I haven't really seen the whole thing in 3 dimensions, but I think that one is going in the right direction. Alternatively, I think the idea of enclosing the stairway as it's shown in the left facade is a better solution.
Yeah, I think as we were sitting here, like I think I want to incorporate this parapet that goes up farther into this one, and then I think the stairway wouldn't look as kind
Puny.
of odd as something else.
Right now, it just looks puny.
Yeah. I think it would balance it a little bit more together that way.
What's the head height of all of your doors and windows on the first floor?
Oh, honestly, I've been using curtain walls, so like this one, it goes up to 9 foot at the ceiling, I believe. Yeah, that's what I was envisioning a lot of them doing. Is more of curtain walls with some panels that were open for like casement or things like that.
Yeah, I think, in wood construction, the curtain wall sort of idea or the phrasing of curtain wall as a window product type is problematic.
Okay.
I mean, I think these are all sort of direct set windows. They might be storefront glazing, right? They could be aluminum sash and glass, some of which could be operable, some of which could be fixed or a combination of it. But I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, yes, I believe so.
So like in the one that's highlighted right now in blue, is that a living room window? Or is that
that's actually going into a bedroom.
So the bedroom, I mean, I love the idea that, you've got this, let's just say it, big ass window there. That's lovely, but it looks too fixed windows. So for instance, what if like there was a mullion at like 2 or so 30 inches above the floor line, and those 2 rectangular openings, right, were hopper windows that allowed for ventilation. So suddenly, like that layer of refinement in the windows there and anywhere in the project starts to get a little bit more realistic and starts to contemplate things like, how a user integrates or uses these window products.
Right, and for egress to get out of the bedroom.
And for egress.
I think that's it that I've done in the Revit. Let me.
Go back to that plan for a second.
Which one?
Either plan, just blow up the floor plan. So I know these are all Revit, library bits, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a personal question,
Yes.
but it's not that personal. Do you ever eat at a dining room table?
Some days, yes.
Some days, yes. But if you don't, what do you usually do?
Sit on my couch and eat.
Right. Or if, so if you had a family, though, that might be a scenario, right, that you would expect.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I'm saying is I'd like you to think a little bit harder about these rooms and these spaces.
Okay.
In terms of the furniture. For instance, in the kitchen, I think you could show an island, not necessarily a fully built-in island, but maybe like a Grainger brand cart or an IKEA cart that is maybe on wheels, right?
Okay,
It
yeah.
just shows the way that the kitchen is a more defined realm
Gotcha.
within that much larger room that
Mhm.
can be both for the like prepping and cooking as well as eating. And then the table, because how many people really are living in this room or in this unit? 2,
3 to 3.
maybe 3.
Yeah.
So you could do, and I think, some of them will sit on the couch. Some of them will sit in their room. Some of them will sit at the island. Maybe some of them will sit at the table. So I typically would do the table against the window,
Okay.
right? And then I would add a coffee table or an ottoman in front of the couch. I would throw a couple more chairs in there, right, to make that living room seem more believable as a space that has sort of a skosh of hospitality to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the wall that has the couch on it, maybe there's like built-in shelves there that is part pantry, is part books, it's part, bowling trophy displays, those kinds of things, right? That
Gotcha.
just allow the scale of the room to be a little bit more proved, and the way the room is being thought by you as a space that's promoting livability has been thought out.
Okay. That makes sense.
Make sure all of your clothing closets are 2 foot clear deep minimum. They don't need to be any more than that, but they got to all be 2 feet. And I think yours are.
I believe so.
Yeah, I believe they are too.
I think that's about it regarding the Revit stuff.
And what are you going to do on the roof as a program space once we get up there? See, like that stairway up there in that left plan, that could be all part of that volume.
Yes, it is. It's just not showing the way it should be, and I don't know why. That's actually, the stairwell is enclosed on the left, but it's looking like it's
But
not.
I'm saying it can actually be double width,
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
right? You can have a closet in there. You can have a hallway that leads out. So the question is, what are you doing on the roof? And you may want to like relegate a certain area of the roof as hardscape, right? But not necessarily the whole roof. That's where I'm going. So give that upstairs, that roof space some definition, and give it some furniture, couches and chairs, tables, that kind of stuff,
Okay.
so that we can see how you're thinking of it.
Okay. And then the same thing would go for down here, possibly in between the garage and this, like a little like
Yes.
chairs on the
Yeah, and that's probably a lot smaller. So that's probably like 2 Adirondacks and,
Right.
and a little side table, for example. Try not to draw any BMWs, Lexus, or Mercedes. Always try to go with a domestic car, only because it'll look silly, you know, doing a project in North End and dropping vehicles like that in there. That looks like a Fiat or like an old-fashioned Fiat or a Ford Fiesta. So I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that
Okay.
one.
I was like, I don't think that looks like one of
No,
those.
that's not a BMW.
Let me bring up the research portion that I'm
Excuse me.
working on. So is this towards the direction that we should be headed for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
research presentation aspect?
Yeah,
Okay.
remember, you're teaching everyone in the class about this, right? So this
Mhm.
information has to be clear for you and for them. Also for the critics. Yeah, I can actually read that.
Sorry, I'm just taking notes as you're talking. How do you have a preference on how we cite something? Like this graphic I found online and I think it read really clear. So I just went ahead and used it instead of trying to recreate it.
Yeah, not a problem. So you can either do it at the, you know, as a footnote down below, or create a plate, you know, that lists all of them in a kind of a bibliographic fashion.
Okay.
You wouldn't necessarily talk about that plate on Monday next week, but that's one way of doing it.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that it was.
Yeah, whenever you harvest like that and you're going to use the art straight up the way you've just described it, then you need to give it credit. If you've taken that information and then redrawn it, then I think that it becomes kind of your information, and you can base that research a little bit more loosely on that source.
Okay. Yeah, because I had the URL down here just to keep track of it.
Yeah,
but
I mean that's fine too.
Okay, I wasn't exactly sure because one of my other professors is very strict about.
Sure.
citing, and I just
Well,
wanted.
you wouldn't want that credit if you know that graph was something you had
yeah.
researched and penned, right? So this is good discipline.
Okay.
Yeah, you definitely need to give the credit. It doesn't matter where it is, as long as it's discoverable in the document that you're putting your name on.
Okay. I think
Excuse me.
that is all the questions I had. And you said you're not expecting fully rendered drawings, right?
No, I mean, but like if you're doing a SketchUp model, you can color code things, for example, and
Right.
drop text into that color so it says residential or a different color for retail. That kind of thing can happen.
Okay, but
for
not
sure.
like red brick and brown.
No, I don't expect that. I mean, if that's what you want to do and you think that's where you are, that's one thing. But like if you have a question about it, why don't you share that with me then?
Okay. I mean, I have ideas like moving forward with it, but not like concrete. I want to show it in a rendering. Just
Yeah, I guess I don't think that you're at that moment, right? You're
Okay.
not you shouldn't necessarily be at that point. You may be, but I think just in terms of my own prejudice, I guess I'd say that you're probably not at that moment.
Right, and I don't think I fully am. I think it's just ideas at this point. So I think that is it.
You know what I do when we're at that same moment at the office, when we've got a client and we're only going to afford the time to do stacked SketchUp models that are color coded for
Mhm.
function or program, and we're talking to them about brick and fiber reinforced concrete or storefront glazing, we'll show an image of a building,
Mm-hmm.
right, that is stylistically sympathetic to what we know we're going to do, but captures all of those materials. And we're going to say it's going to be in this vein. It's going to be in this family of materials and this family of maybe proportion or aesthetic or style, relying again on the case study as a way of evidencing the way this sort of train is going.
Gotcha.
All right.
Makes sense.
Cool. Thanks, Mariah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Let me look and see if Mateo's. Nathan, have you heard from him?
We've been texting him and emailing him as we were discussing our own boots on the ground team research.
Gotcha.
While we were talking here, and we haven't heard anything, so I don't know what's going on.
Well, he knows where I am, and if he wants to get a hold of me, he can certainly. You can tell him that too if he wants to chat
there he
later
is.
on.
You just sent a text. Are we in the chat now?
Yeah, he should be there. Let me.
Yeah.
I'll send him again. Okay, I just sent another invite. So I got a T-Mobile thing. I don't know who this is from.
I sent him a text holding him to come in, but telling him.
I'm sending him a note.
Mariah, that link I shared while you guys were talking talks about another way to deal with the rooftop terrace and staircase design up there.
Thanks. I just opened it. I haven't had a chance to completely read it yet. It looks pretty cool though.
But yeah, if you keep I'll let you read it. But
when are we discussing the field trip stuff?
Oh, we can do that.
I mean, we don't. I don't know.
Yeah. So the field trip was going to be.
I don't think Mateo's coming.
Okay, thanks. What weekend did we describe?
November 12th and 13th is what I have on my calendar.
I have the 11th and 12th.
Yes, and yeah, Friday, the 11th is a Friday.
Yeah, so the 11th is the drive date, and that would be the night that we spend there, and then the 12th would be the day of the trip and then the return.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any hotels for us?
No, I have family in the area.
You do? Are we all just going to spend the night on the floor there?
Probably not.
I'm stunned.
No,
where do they live?
Huh?
Where do they live?
I'm not entirely sure. I just reconnected with them. Unfortunately, at a family funeral a couple months ago.
Okay.
But we kept in touch before that. But they're always saying, "Hey, if you ever come out this way to see us, to let them know." And so I'm going out that way. So try to.
Well, bring them on the trip. They'll enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I've got. So that's 3 weeks from now, right? We better get reservations. Someone want to dig that up for us? It's possible to drive down there in the morning. I used to do it that way. I used to leave at 7 a.m. and get there by 11:30. We have lunch at Skyline Chili, and by 12:30 we're touring. And we finish by 3:30 or 4, but we don't see everything that I want you guys to see because we got to get back, and I'm running out of steam. And I actually haven't had the field trip in 2 years because it's just way too much. So this time I'm willing to do it for you guys, but I have to do it in such a way that, you know, I get down there on a Friday night and then wake up fresh. And I'd like to start at 10 and do a 4-hour field trip and then come back that afternoon and not be totally whacked out till Monday when I get back to work.
So should we look for something close around the school then?
Yeah, I mean, if there's anything in Clifton,
Clifton.
I've stayed at the Kingsgate Marriott. That may be a little too pricey. There's a Hampton Inn, which is $1.50. Again, there's going to be
There's a Fairfield that's 120 that seems to be almost right across the street.
Wait, what city are we going to? Columbus? No, that's
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
All right, next to Dayton. Is that right?
Actually, you know, because you're because you would be there on Friday night, and you know you could drive as much as like 30 or 45 minutes, so you wouldn't have to be in downtown Cincinnati. Although it might be nice to get together that Friday night as a group, but that's not necessarily sort of a requirement. But you could stay outside of Cincinnati if that was maybe more desirable. And there's actually probably great hotels or Airbnbs. That's another option, right? In like Florence or Covington, Kentucky. So that would be across the river, and everything's just a little bit less expensive there, and that may be you know, worth looking at. Yeah, the sites I'm looking at right now are crappy. I'll let you guys figure this out. But that's the basic idea. There are hotels downtown. I don't know. I don't want you to spend all your money. I've actually stayed at the Red Roof Inn in Blue Ash, $51. You know, and I live to tell the story, so it can be done, right? If that's your budget. That's not going to hurt my feelings if that's where you guys want to go.
What was the other, you said, what was the town in Kentucky?
Newport or Covington.
Yeah, it's right across the river I'm looking at.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally, you can see the city. Yeah, there's a Hampton Inn in Covington, Kentucky. That's about $1.25 a night. And if you like 3 or 4 of you got into a room, you know, that would keep it pretty reasonable, right?
Yeah, I guess it just depends on who all is going.
Right, and that's the other thing. So you guys internally need to work through that and let me know, and then let me know what you guys decide, and then we can go from there. Okay.
Sounds good.
Okay, and we won't have class Wednesday night. We will have the review on Monday night, a week from tonight, right? The 24th. On the 26th, we'll have a debriefing, and maybe we'll circle back and talk a little bit about the field trip then, because that'll be 2 weeks away then. All right?
Sounds good.
Great. Thanks for bringing that up. Who's next? Okay, well, Wheel of Fortune, here I come. Can I have the letter R, please, Pat? Yeah, I'm not really sure that I've ever watched that show, but I just thought I'd fake you out. All right, I'll be around this weekend. Just shoot me a text or an email if you have any questions, all right? See you all soon. Good luck.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.